Welcome to the Movers and Shakers podcast, where real students are doing real deals in the world of multifamily real estate. I'm Vince Gettings, the owner of the Wheelwell Profits Academy. Listen in as we dive into the journeys of driven individuals who are turning their dreams into reality. These people are just like you, taking action and making things happen. If you enjoy the show, please like, subscribe, and if you're ready to take action, check us out at wheelwellprofits.com to learn more about our incredible community. Let's get started.
Hello and welcome to the Movers and Shakers podcast. My name is Gino Barbaro, co-founder of Jake Gino, multifamily investor, educator, father, and mentor. And today I'm joined by Jen Brown. She grew up in Indiana, where she attended Purdue University for mechanical engineering. So she's the smart one on the show, everybody. After graduating, she moved to Dallas-Fort Worth in 2015 to pursue a job at an aerospace company. She joined us this past October and quickly acquired her first multifamily property in April 2022. She is also a limited partner in 106 units. Welcome to the show, Jen. How you doing?
Gino, doing good. Thanks for having me.
I mean, it's exciting. I remember when you joined, and I'm just thinking that she's really smart. She got the mechanical engineering going on. What drew you to multifamily? Because typically people, when they're younger, they're not thinking about going into a second career, about investing in their own personal development and growth. What drew you to that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think, a couple years into working in my job, my day job, I started to get a little bit antsy, and I think I can't explain it, but I think it was something in my gut. I knew that I was going to do something else after I graduated. I just wasn't sure what that was going to be. And so all that to say, a couple of years down the road working, I, was looking for something else. And so I spent a lot of time, on the internet, kind of Googling, okay, what can I do here? And somehow I came across Grant Cardone, and that kind of put a seed in my brain. And then, eventually led me down a road of reading The Purple Book by Robert Kiyosaki. And then talking to a lot of people that I worked with, and a lot of them actually own single family rentals. And so that kind of led me down a path of real estate. And as I was going to real estate meetup groups, I kept hearing the same thing over and over again. People said if they could do it again, they would have just started out in multifamily and skipped the single family space. And so eventually I just kind of made a decision. I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do this multifamily thing. And that's, I'm going to make it happen. And so that's kind of how my journey led me to now.
Remember when before we got on the show, you said, I'm going to throw some curveballs at you. So here's the first curveball I'm going to throw at you. Grant Cardone. Out of all, Grant Cardone is like the typical avatar is a 25 to 30-year-old young male who's in sales. How did you get to listen to him, and what attracted you to Grant Cardone?
Gosh, I don't know. I think I was so curious to know how people created wealth. And so Googling, I don't know what I Googled at the time, I can't remember, but somehow he popped up and he just was talking about how, the majority of wealth is made in real estate. And so the more research I did, the more that seemed to be a common theme. And not to mention the freedom aspect that it could provide, a family and yourself. And so it was very attractive from that standpoint, as well as, it was a tangible investment. And, admittedly, I have invested in a 401k. I did that because I was told to, and it doesn't make any sense to me. Couldn't explain it to somebody if I tried. And so real estate was something that, you can underwrite, you can control your risk tolerance, and you can touch it and feel it. And no matter where we are in technology or where we are in the economy, people need a place to live. And it just felt like the right industry for me to go into.
I can feel the engineer oozing out of you. You have to be that
Yes.
analytical mind where you
Oh,
can
yes.
underwrite it, you can touch it. It has to make logical sense to everybody out there.
It
And that's
does.
true. But at the same
Yes.
time, there's an emotion to it. Jen's attached an emotion to it where she says it's a basic human need. And I like one thing that I really like to share with everybody that really caught my attention is people see the world as they are, not as it is. Jennifer was a beginner. She didn't know anything about single family homes or multifamily. So she just said, these people are telling me this. Now, a lot of you out there listening to this, you may be stuck in the single family home rat race. And that's all you've known for the last 10 years. And you're saying to yourself, I have the limiting belief of I can't get into multifamily. It's a big pie in the sky. Well, Jennifer is here to tell you that you don't have to stay in the single family home space. You are choosing to, and there's nothing wrong with that. Just become conscious and aware of your thoughts, because she skipped single family and went directly to multifamily. Why is that? Because she was a beginner. She wasn't an expert. And sometimes in life, it's a lot better not to be an expert and just to start out and just to try something out. Because if multifamily didn't work, then guess what? She may have gone to self-storage. She may have gone to mobile home parks. She may be even going back to single family home. But I applaud you for taking that leap to multifamily. The next question, being the engineer, going to college, going down that safe, secure route, whatever the heck that means. What did the family say? They must have been like pitchforks and axes and like, are you nuts? What are you doing?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, that was pretty much their exact reaction. I mean, they said, be careful. Just they really, even now, I mean, after having done my first deal, they still are very skeptical of it. And so it's something, it wasn't in my family, real estate at all. I mean, my parents bought a house to live in, and that was pretty much it. And so, I'm the first person in my kind of family history to go into real estate. And so, they're very unfamiliar, very skeptical, and even now so tell me to be careful. And so it's a different mindset for sure.
Do you have any advice for the listeners out there? Because Jennifer, I had the same feeling with my parents, my family. They were entrepreneurial, but in the 2008 recession, everything became, let's stay small, my mom. Let's not take any risk. And I honestly did not tell her about Jake and myself until we had 200 units, because I had already bought other stuff. So I just I chose not to tell one of the most important people in my life what I was doing, because it was constantly like, you're taking risks. Why are you doing this? You have 6 mouths to feed, and on and on. And I decided not to tell her until that fateful day. I'm sitting in the parking lot at the restaurant, and I'm like, Mom, I've got something to tell you. I have 200 units and I'm looking to leave the restaurant in the next couple of years. And she was completely floored by it. She didn't know how to react. She was excited at the same time, but unsure and skeptical. And are you taking risks? Are you going to lose money? And what advice would you give to anybody out there who has a family or members who are skeptical of what you're doing?
I think for me, it was getting around people who were also doing it, who didn't think that I was crazy for thinking this way. And so I really honestly had to kind of get away from, what my parents were saying and really just kind of tune it out, to be honest with you, and start, getting around people who were doing it and who could kind of encourage me and say, you're not crazy and this is real and you can do this. And so that for me, I think made the biggest difference.
So that's a perfect segue. I couldn't have served up the next question any better, because I think that's one of the challenges that you're experiencing before joining Jake and Gino. That's a huge challenge, everybody. That's the peer group. If your peer group is middle class, working, and they're not entrepreneurial, nothing wrong with that, but it's very hard to get into that next iteration. That's what was challenging for me. I was fortunate that I had Jake, that I actually invested in my education early on, that I started going to some events and I started pulling away from that mindset. What are the challenges we were experiencing? And talk about that when you joined, about having the peer group, having great coaches, coming to these events and actually talking to people who are excited about their work and excited about making a change and excited about taking control of their financial future and not worrying about the economy, not worrying about anything else, but worrying that we have the control to take control of our destiny.
Yeah, I think, you said it right. I mean, to be around people who think that way is encouraging. And I know, at the point where I joined Jake and Gino, I was starting to doubt myself, because I think it took me a little bit longer to get that first deal than most people. It took me probably a total of 3 years. And so, I was going through some self-doubt, and obviously, you have my parents on one token who are kind of saying, what are you doing? And so you get to a place where you start to question, okay, can I really do this? And especially because I didn't start out in single family like the majority of people do. And I really was starting to doubt that I could do it. And so when I joined the community, being able to network with people, talk to people, made me much more confident that I could, and that needing to start out in the single family space was a limiting belief for myself. And so, not to mention the fact that there are so many potential partnerships in the space. And so that kind of helped me realize that, okay, I only need to focus on what I'm good at and what my strength is, which is underwriting. I'm boots on the ground in Dallas. A lot of people want to be in Dallas. And so I could focus on those things and focus on networking, finding the right partnerships to fill the roles that I wasn't focused on. And then also to have people to help when you do come across a deal that you're going to pursue. I mean, I don't know if I would have closed my first deal if I hadn't had, the coaching and the support along the way to ask questions. And so having that, again, was a huge instrumental point in me getting it across the finish line. And so for all of those reasons, community, I think, is so important.
I want to recap that for everybody, because it's important, because my journey is very similar to yours. It didn't take you 3 years once you joined Jake and Gino. You were looking for 3 years, but when you joined, it was like a few months after that you located the deal. And for me, it was the same thing, Jennifer. It took Jake and myself 18 months to find that very first deal. And what happened when I had done that, I got a mentor. I already had mentorship, but on our third deal, I had a mentor as well. And it was amazing, that life support that I had when I could pick up the mentor and say, "How is my underwriting look good? Do you have this document for taking over? Do you have a document where I can create a credibility book to attract some money for the deal?" And for me, it was that life support. It gave me the confidence to look at that deal and say, this deal makes sense. And I like what you said, focusing on your strengths. You know what your strengths are. Your boots on the ground. It's people want to invest there. You're really good at underwriting the deal and forming those relationships. So I think that's all really, really important, everybody. Now let's talk specifically the deal, because I remember looking at the deal. It was phenomenal. I remember getting like, everyone's out here complaining there's no deals out here, and you found this wonderful deal. How did you find the deal? Let's talk specifically numbers on this deal.
Yeah. So believe it or not, I found this deal through somebody in the community. They had a friend who was a wholesaler. And so the person in the community posted it on the Facebook group. And so I just reached out to them and said, hey, I'm local to Dallas Fort Worth. I'd be interested in taking a look. So he made the introduction to me and the wholesaler. And so there was a lot of working back and forth with the wholesaler. He was originally asking a certain price and I wasn't quite there. And I think, we kind of developed a working relationship together, and he ultimately decided to allow us to take it down at the price that we were coming in at. And so that's, crazy enough, I found it from a Facebook post in the group.
That's awesome. So how many units? What tell me the units, the unit mix, the age, because that was all, the vintage was new. I remember it was brick. Can you go into details with the deal a little bit more?
Yeah, it was a 2018 build. It was built by the original owners who built it. I think they're primarily more single family developers. And so this was their first multifamily development. And I think they just were tired of managing it. They hadn't raised rents since they built it. I can't remember the unit mix exactly, but they were larger units, more townhome style. So they had their own individual gated backyards. I think the average square footage was around 1,800. So they were fairly big. Wow. And so, we underwrote to raise rents about $150, and we're raising them about $250 now, and we're getting it. The reason why we like the deal also is because it was about 5-minute drive from a really good school district there in the area. And so that's been a really big component, selling component of the asset, is you get a lot of families in there who want their kids to go to that school. And so that's made a huge difference.
Wow. So there's a lot to recap here. Your buy rate criteria in this part of the market cycle. The first thing is valuation through operation, not just renovation. This is a new build, everybody. So there's no CapEx requirements. That's the first thing. They're new units. The second thing is this is a mom and pop owner. This is what we talk about. These people built the complex. They love the complex. It's theirs. They can't raise rents because they probably have relationships with the residents, they're not treating it and running it like a business. The other thing, large units. I love the unit mix. I mean, 1,800 square feet. So it is family. These are units that you're going to be able to rent. $250 rent bumps is amazing. I like what you said about the school district. I'm sure the median income is a nice median income as well, which supports the rents. So in this part of the market cycle, these are the deals that we like to buy, these newer deals where you don't have to go in and put a ton of capital expenditures on them because you're already paying a high enough price. You're buying this asset. This is a buy and hold. What is the business plan on this? So you're going to buy and hold this, or are you going to sell this, refinance? What does that look like for you?
Yeah, so my business partner and I are looking to hold it more long term, so probably 5 to 7 years, maybe a little bit longer. We would like to do a refi when the market is probably in a better position. Luckily, another thing I liked about this property is it allowed us to get fixed rate debt. So we went with a community bank on that, and we're able to kind of slide in there before the interest rates really kind of, skyrocketed up. And so, it was a great first deal. I don't know if I could have asked for a better one.
I have so many more questions. I don't know where to start. I mean, the first one for me is, anybody listening to this and they're doubting themselves and saying, Jennifer's lucky. She just got into this. Well, what advice would you give to anybody out there who wants to get into multifamily, who's stuck in a single family or is in a W-2 job and saying, I need more. I don't feel like I'm as secure in my job as I was a couple of years ago. I really want to start creating some type of other income. What would you say to them?
I think for me, I think they need to decide that this is what they want to do. And I think they need to, once they decide, they need to commit to it and kind of put their blinders on and this is what they're going to do. And they need to work at it and show up every single day until they make it happen. And so, for me, yes, it took me 3 years and I would have kept showing up if it took me 10 years. And so I was determined and I wasn't going to give up, and it didn't really matter how long it took. And so I think commitment is ultimately what it takes.
Where does that determination come from though? Why do you want it so badly? And is it your ultimate goal to get into multifamily full time?
Yeah, that is my ultimate goal. I think the determination really is the fact that I can't go do a 9 to 5 the rest of my life. It's a grind to have to go there every single day because somebody told you to. And, you have to put in your 40 hours of work because, again, somebody made up this number that you have to work 40 hours a week to be productive. And, ultimately, I don't thrive in an environment where I have to work for somebody else. I really would love to work for myself. And I love the freedom opportunities that real estate provides. And so going to work every day was admittedly, also a motivator for me. I hate it. And so it motivates me every day to show up and, do this real estate thing in the evenings and on the weekends. And that's what I did for 3 years every single day.
Would you have done anything differently? Would you have not gone to college and gone into real estate full time if you could have?
I think about this, and I think you probably could have. I think, I learned determination through going to college. Engineering is not, it's not an easy degree to get. And so that I think took the same mindset that I'm taking into real estate, which is don't give up, do whatever it takes to get it done. And so I took that very similar mindset and I took it to real estate. So all of that to be said, I don't know if I would have done anything differently. I think you could start out in real estate, but I don't know. I don't think I would have changed it.
So I've got a couple little notes in front of me. We have a woman who likes Grant Cardone, who became an engineer and who started out multifamily. That's like 0.003% of the, I'm just saying very few women. And that's what it takes. That's what I love about it. I mean, like you're into personal development, you're into looking outside the box, and you're not looking at the typical stereotype where I need to do this and I can't get into that. And that is a limiting belief for a lot of people out there. That's what we call energy blocks. It's something that's internal or external, typically internal in your mind, whether it's that negative thought in your mind, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough. And that's one of the things I think that the Jake and Gino community or any community out there will allow you to overcome. It's helped me overcome that as well. And they never go away. They're only going to get different. I mean, I used to have my limiting belief or my gremlin years ago was I was the pizza guy. Now that we're scaling up, we're talking to these high level individuals. It's like, am I good enough to talk to this person? Am I smart enough in that sphere? So it'll never go away. That's why you need that accountability. I've written a couple of things down here too, Jennifer. Decide, commit. And this is one of the high level people I've been speaking to. Julius Thomas talks about that. He talks about really the high performance, you need to commit to something. But when you commit to something, you're sacrificing something else. So you have to make that understanding that we can't have everything in life. You're committing to this huge, important goal, but you're sacrificing other things. Now, I mean, what are you sacrificing in life? Is that going out partying? Is that maybe having those relationships with other people in your life that don't fit your sphere? Because for me, real quick, the sacrifice that I have doing Jake and Gino and doing all these events, I have a family, so I can't go out on the weekends. I can't go out and do golfing. There's a lot of things that I need to sacrifice, but my commitment is there because my why is there. And I think people really need to understand that. And I think the last thing is really important. I want everyone to write this down. Behaviors are belief driven. Listen to what Jennifer said, 3 years. And if she didn't get it after 3 years, she would take 5 years. So she knew sooner or later it was going to happen. She was going to make it happen. So for those of you out there that are doubting yourself, find that accountability, find that group, because it'll really help. But, to my question, that it's an important thing to think of, because you can't say yes to, when you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. So what are you like sacrificing in life to really achieve those goals?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sacrificing time with my significant other. I have, a day job that I work till 4:00. I go to the gym and then I come home and I work on this until 8, 9 o'clock at night sometimes. And so that's a sacrifice there. And then as well as, my social life. Yes, I probably said no to more things than I've said yes to, and, lost friends in the process, admittedly. And so, it unfortunately, it takes a sacrifice, and it's not all glamorous, but when you were talking, I got chills literally. And like, I'm doing what I was trying to accomplish 3 years ago. And it feels so good, and it's so worth it.
It is, isn't it? So that feeling out there, now that you had that feeling, what's the next step for you? What's the next iteration for you? Continue to come to events. And by the way, Jennifer was at the last event, sitting there taking notes. So she's putting in the hard work. So for those of you out there, what is she committing? She's committing weekends with friends and family to be at a boot camp in May with Jake and Gino, learning how to manage right, because that's the next iteration. She bought this deal. Now she's the asset manager and she's helping the property management out. So she's sacrificing that time. So I don't want people to think, oh, it's an easy thing. I'm just going to run the right a couple of deals and take it down. You put all the hard work on the front end, and on the back end, there's so much. I think that's what life's about. It's being successful is just a feeling. You've achieved the goal, but being successful is that feeling you get, like you said, the chills. You feel accomplished. You feel like you're doing something. You feel like you're creating impact for yourself, and it only starts snowballing from there. So I don't even know what the heck question I asked. What question did I ask you? I was thinking about that feeling, because
I know it's addicting.
Yes.
Yeah.
I love that. It's so as far as what's that next iteration, what's the next step for you?
Yeah, I want to continue to go to the events, meet some more amazing people who, potential partnerships who I can help. And, I have my blinders on. I want to do a second deal, and I kind of want to take it from there. I want to grow that snowball and hopefully be in a position in, next year to be able to quit my day job. And so that's kind of the short-term goal that I hope to be able to achieve soon.
That's not a short-term goal. Think about it. I mean, you've been working on it for 3 years. And ironically enough, if people start from day one, within 5 years, if you put the effort in, it comes to fruition. Because I have a very similar story. I started looking with Jake in 2011. We bought our first deal in 2013. In March of 2016, I quit my job. And for everybody, it's a little different. I left the restaurant industry and went into real estate full time. I had 6 kids. I had a much more expenses. So for everyone, it's a little bit different. But that 5-year time horizon seems about right, because of that conveyor belt that we talk about at Jake and Gino. You've got your first deal on there. It is year 3, but by year 5, that deal is going to be coming off, whether you're selling it, refinancing it. And by year 4, you have another deal. In year 5, you have a third or fourth deal. So you have deals on this imaginary conveyor belt, and then all of a sudden they're matriculating, and you're getting to be a better investor. And you're not only buying that 10 unit, now you're buying a 40 unit, which makes more impact, and you have more investors out there. And that, I think, to me, is what's exciting about this whole business, where if you have that long-term mindset, it's really important. Can you speak to the long-term mindset? Because obviously I mean, to be able to have the patience to go 3 years without a deal and to stick with it and not to quit. Do you have any pointers or tips on how you've been able to adopt that what we call the 100-year real estate investor mindset?
I think, really kind of taking note of where you like to be, long term, where you want your future to be. I mean, if that's, working at a day job, or if that's building something for the future for your family, then you just, you commit to it. And as you were talking about the conveyor belt, that was actually something I learned in Jake and Gino. Just kind of, okay, I got one on the conveyor belt. Now I just have to keep it moving and kind of visualize what that looks like long term. So, I mean, really, I think it's checking in with yourself and visualizing where you want your life to be long term, and figuring out, each day what you need to do to make that happen.
And it's funny, I want to go back to that feeling, because this is important for everybody, because this is, when you're getting down and your why is getting pushed. I think what you should do is just close your eyes, Jennifer, and for everyone listening, just close your eyes. And it's part of your physiology. It's part of your state. Come back and that feeling of closing that first deal, or making that first offer, or that first refi, whatever that's like, lock that feeling in, and you'll feel it. And then all of a sudden, things change, your physiology changes. You start standing up, you start smiling, you start feeling excited about the opportunity to get it. But that clarity is what will set you free. We don't lack the motivation. We always lack the clarity of what we want. And the fact that you from an early age said, single family, it's not really for me. I want multifamily. To me, that's really amazing. Before we sign off, I mean, I love the show, because going from single family, skipping that and saying, I'm not there, getting into multifamily, looking at the deals. I mean, any final words for the listeners out there?
I think really, make a decision and commit to it, and literally never give up. I actually recently got a tattoo on my wrist that says never give up. And I think that's the key right there.
I love that. So there's so many ways I can really recap this, but young woman who loves Grant Cardone, who becomes an engineer, who goes into the multifamily space, who takes 3 years to close her first deal. And within the next 12 to 24 months, she will be leaving her job. I will guarantee that, and pursuing this full time. Everybody out there, think about what you want to commit to. Committing to something is great, but then also look at what the sacrifice is, and be sure that you know what you're sacrificing is worth what you're committing to. Jennifer, how can the listeners get a hold of you?
Yeah, I would say they can find me on Facebook or Instagram, just Jen Brown. That's obviously a common name, so feel free to email me as well. It's jen@meetanchor.com. That's MEET anchor.com.
I love that. I want to thank Jennifer for being an amazing guest on the show and sharing her Movers and Shakers story. Now, if you want to be the next Movers and Shakers guest, email us at McKenzie at jakeandgino.com. Now, if you like the show, just leave us a review. Until next time, we will see you. Thanks, Jennifer. Great show.
Thank you. Thank you, Gino.